jungle. Okay, trees, tropical, fruit trees and perennials. So the nice thing about fruit trees is that you go to them and you pick the fruit and eat it. They're delicious, but also the fact that they're up at this level means that the whole of the lower level is available for growing shorter crops, lettuce, spinach, that kind of stuff. So over the years, I've discovered that things that are really tropical, like banana, things like, citrus is sort of semi-tropical. Citrus will do okay in the dome without heating, as long as it's close to the tank. But things like banana, papaya, those real tropical-y things, you will have to have a heater to make those work when you're growing them. But the subtropicals, they'll grow usually fine. And the different things that I've seen growing in a growing dome, mainly in pots, the citrus, people tend to grow them in pots. Lemon, orange, grapefruit, then grapes, of course. I've seen people grow apricots, peaches. I've heard of papaya, I've seen mangoes in a heated dome. I have pomegranate, a fruit called juju, which is a cross between like an apple and a pear. And so there's, and then of course low-growing fruits like strawberries. You've got to be a little careful with your bush fruits like raspberries. They'll kind of spread all over the place. But the dome is a great place to grow fruits, and also perennials. So I did actually make a list of some perennials that grow in the dome really well. And it's nice to have a few perennials that you're just going to keep harvesting. You don't have to every year go and resow the seeds, even though it's part of the fun. And so I just wrote down a few perennials. In my dome, my first dome in Aspen, we had one rosemary bush and one sage bush, and these things just grew terrifically. The rosemary bush was this high. Every year I would go and prune it like crazy and sell the rosemary at the farmer's market, and it didn't miss a beat. It just kept producing. The same with the sage. And thyme, I think thyme's a perennial, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So those are, and some of the other things like lemon balm and mint, you've got to be very careful with mint because it puts out these runners and they're going to take over your whole dome. So you can grow mint, grow them in a pot, or even put sheet metal in the ground so they can't spread everywhere. Jerusalem artichoke. Richard mentioned Jerusalem artichoke. And where I lived in Scotland, the bottom of my garden, Scotland, I live right by the ocean, very windy, and at the bottom of my garden was facing southwest where the main wind came from. I planted 2 rows of Jerusalem artichokes, and I don't know if you've seen them, but basically every spring they put out new shoots, and they made a hedge about this tall of foliage, which before I got my proper hedge planted, they were kind of interim hedge, and of course every fall you go and dig up the tubers. You're always going to leave some, so next year there's your other hedge. So they're kind of perennial by the default, that you never dig everything up. And they're delicious and very nutritious, so I call those a perennial. If you want to plant asparagus, anybody got an asparagus bed in the dome? You have? Not in the dome. No, mainly outside. Yeah, they grow well outside, but you could put one in the dome. Chives, of course, keep coming back. So the nice thing about perennials, again, you can plant them at different levels, and also it's nice to just have something that keeps producing. Anybody have an artichoke in the dome? No, Chrissy has artichokes. I have an artichoke in my dome. Anybody else? But anyway, they seem to, like mine, produce fruit. Are they fruit? Maybe not. Flowers? I think they're flowers. A bud. Anyway, it produced the bud, and we ate the bud, and then the first heavy frost, everything went brown, and we cut it off. But this spring, from the bottom of the stem that was cut off, the new artichoke is doing pretty good. Yeah?
They
Doing
get
good.
huge.
Huge again.
They
So,
take up a lot of room.
so there's a perennial. I don't know if it's supposed to be a perennial, but it is, so that's pretty great. The other thing I've done by default is prove that peppers and tomatoes can be perennials too. And one winter was a really hard winter. It froze in end of October or early November, and my tomatoes froze. And I was really, really busy in that winter, and I just kind of let the growing dome do its own thing. I didn't go in there very often, just ran in to pick a few things. And I never got around to pulling out the wizened sticks of the tomato and the pepper. And so in March, I got the planting urge, as we all do in the spring, and I went in, I was just about to pull out these brown wizened tomato plants, and I noticed from the bottom of the stem there were little green shoots coming off, both the tomato and the pepper, and I thought, whoa, this is pretty neat. So I cut the plant down severely back, and lo and behold, they grew another pepper and tomato plant the following year, and I got the earliest tomatoes I've ever had. So that was a kind of cool experiment. Have you done that, Hasio? No, that's a fun thing to do. All right.